This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening, everyone. In response to what the state government has labelled anarchy on our roads, tough new laws cracking down on police evaders will be tabled in Parliament this week. The legislation will see much tougher penalties, which could be in place as early as next month.
It's a move welcomed by those on the beat who say with the current law they feel like their hands are tied.
Right across Australia, right across the world, people are struggling with holding these people to account and balancing the need between catching them but not creating a more significant risk to the community.
The state's seen a doubling in cases over the last year, with 800 evasions in 2016 compared with 400 the year before.
It has happened in the past, but never as regularly and as openly as this, and that's simply because there's no real consequences for the actions, and it's about time there were some consequences.
So this is an appalling activity that's currently unconstrained to a degree by the legislation, which means you've actually got to catch them and stop them in the act. This legislation changes that. It resets the policing laws to allow people to be charged later on reasonable grounds.
The new legislation will give police the power to pursue and arrest offenders, and penalties will be significantly increased. Reen Hidding says a catalyst in changing the law was the case of young mum Sarah Payno, who was killed by a speeding car.
Many items of this legislation are being dealt with that circumstance in mind.
The proposed legislation will be tabled in Parliament this week, and the law could take effect as early as next month.
We all want safe streets and, as a parent in particular, we want to make sure that we get that balance right.
Meanwhile, police are urging drivers to stay safe and remain vigilant on the roads this Easter. From Thursday, Operation Crossroads will be underway statewide, with police targeting known hotspots for drink and drug drivers. Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
A Molotov cocktail has been used in a shocking arson attack which significantly damaged a Hobart property. 5 residents were inside when the weapon smashed through a window.
This is the aftermath of an arson attack. Blackened window sills and charred walls, the ugly fallout of a suspected feud.
Male person has exited a white 2-door Mitsubishi Lancer and walked up to the house, thrown a rock through the window and then what appears to be a Molotov cocktail through the lounge room window.
The Tasmania Fire Service arrived at the scene early this morning to find the property well alight. 5 people were at the house at the time and were all lucky to escape.
All the occupants were quickly exited the house and one who remained to try and fight the fire has been taken to hospital with smoke inhalation.
Tasmania Police says it's likely the suspect was known to residents.
It appears the occupants of this residence may have been feuding with some other locals, and it appears an isolated incident.
An estimated $100,000 damage was caused to the property. Police are searching for a white Mitsubishi Lancer, which was seen in the area before the incident. Also in Woolrain, the Tasmania Fire Service is recognising top efforts from staff at Clarence Campus TAFE this morning. A blaze broke out just after 8 o'clock in the kitchen, workers helping to contain the flames until crews arrived on the scene.
But staff on site that were trained used portable extinguishers to actually limit the spread of the fire. And because they rang 000, the information that we received prior to arriving allows us to put in a plan before we sort of get on scene.
No students were on campus at the time and classes functioned as normal. Anybody with information in relation to either incident is urged to contact Crime Stoppers. Talia Higgins, Southern Cross News.
A Tasmania police training officer has pleaded not guilty to a sex offence. The 19-year-old man from Hobart appearing in the Magistrates Court today. He was charged last month with having sexual intercourse with a young person under the age of 17 and was suspended from duty on full pay. The accused will remain on bail to appear for trial at the Supreme Court on June 13. Two people charged with burglary and stealing from a cemetery have appeared in the Hobart Magistrates Court. 24-year-old Samuel Devine and 20-year-old Nikita Latham, both from Moona, allegedly stole a car from a funeral business at the Cornelian Bay Cemetery last month. No plea was entered and the case was adjourned until May 4. The state's peak tourism body says the clash of three major sporting events on the weekend affected attendances. AFL was hardest hit, with Blunston Arena half empty for North Melbourne's match with GWS on Saturday. But Tasmania's capacity to host so many events in the first place is being hailed as a credit to the state.
It's been called the biggest weekend of sport in the state's history, but was it too much for fans?
The supercars certainly was a factor with the AFL, I think, more than anything. It's a very similar market, obviously, the football and the V8s, and we've seen that happen in the past.
Less than 9,000 people saw Greater Western Sydney play North Melbourne at Blunston on Saturday, the worst ever rollout for the Roos at the venue. The rain-soaked supercars at Symmons Plains still drew 50,000 across the 3 days, but that's slightly less than last year and well below its peak of 62,000 in 2005.
The more we can support these events, the more likely they're going to come back, and hopefully we're going to have weekends where they're not necessarily clashing.
The other event was the Enduro World Series in Derby, which pulled around 3,000 people, on par with expectations.
It's up to the different organisations to come together and organise their itinerary.
Although costly, the tourist body says sports scheduling is largely out of the state's control.
All in all, it's one of the most historic big weekends we've had in Tasmania for events, and I guess we should look at the upside of what that achieved.
That upside showing Tasmania has the infrastructure to host multiple sports at the same time.
What I saw this weekend was plenty of space in Tasmania for all these events.
Which is ultimately what fans want to see.
There's football people who like football and they don't like the racing, so I like both. I'm a Melbourne supporter, but it was great to watch the car racing while we could. Weather was fantastic, made the racing better. Bit of water's always good.
Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
This year's Red Shield appeal is just around the corner, and Olive Fall, a volunteer for the last 70 years, is again ready to hit the pavement.
It's great to be at Northgate and meeting all the people that know me from when I was a child through life, so it's really great.
This year's appeal aiming to raise $230,000.
Every cent of it stays in Tasmania, and it goes directly into helping those people in need, into our centres, into our shelters, our rehab centres, into our core-based doorways that provide assistance to people on a daily basis.
Last year, 17,000 Tasmanians were helped by the appeal. And one of the state's oldest Vinnys op shops is moving location for the first time since the 1970s. The new store in the Launceston suburb of Mowbray is much bigger than the previous site at the old Star Theatre. In the pipeline for several years, the space will house more furniture for those in need.
Bigger and brighter space and hopefully more appealing, yes, and still lots of bargains.
The charity hopes the new location will be more accessible for shoppers. Now let's take a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. The Australian share market has risen to a 2-year high amid growing optimism that tensions between the United States and its rivals will not escalate following a US missile strike on a Syrian airbase last Friday. The ASX 200 index has increased by 50.4 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 74.89 US cents and 70.73 euro cents.
Former Launceston swimmer Ariane Titmus is the toast of Australian swimming. The 16-year-old blowing the field away to take out the women's 800-metre freestyle final at the Australian Swimming Championships in Brisbane last night. The opening night of the Australian Swimming Championships produced plenty of highlights, but none bigger than the performance of former Tasmanian Ariane Titmus, who stunned the swimming world by winning the women's 800 in a time of 8 minutes 23.08 seconds, the fastest time recorded in the world this year. Following her start-to-finish win, which saw her break her PB by a staggering 14 seconds, Titmus was quick to praise her family's support.
I'm completely shocked. I've been training well, but didn't expect to go that fast. It's massive because my family made so many sacrifices for me to be here, and like moving up from Tasmania a couple of years ago to help me get better at my swimming, and finally it's paying off and I have the best family.
Back in Tasmania, family today still in shock at the scale of her performance.
Oh, look, it's incredible. Like, I mean, we didn't expect her to go out that hard and be able to maintain it for so long. I mean, that's a PB that no one expected.
Her former swimming club today also acknowledging the significant achievement.
Of course, we're very proud as Ariana's a past member of Launceston Aquatic Club, also a Riverside Aquatic Club, but, you know, a solid member of the Tasmanian swimming community.
Titmus swam under the qualifying time, meaning she has also booked her ticket to this year's World Swimming Championships to be held in Hungary later this year. Attention for Titmus now turns to the 400 metres, which will be held on the final day of the championships. TSL Launceston forward Sonny Whiting says the rivalry with the Northern Bombers is sure to reignite when the two teams clash on Good Friday. The goal sneak contributed 7 majors in his side's 62-point demolition of Burnie at Windsor Park. He says the Blues midfield is in top form for the fixture, with both teams going in with 2 wins on the board.
There's always just that little bit more when we play North. It's always been a rivalry, so it's just everyone lifts just that little gear. It's good.
This weekend's rivalry round also features Burnie against Devonport, the Tigers playing Hobart City and Clarence hosting Lauderdale. And the votes are in for the RACT Insurance Player of the Year in the TSL after the second round. Sonny Whiting polling 3 votes after his 6-goal haul against the Dockers. Glenorchy star Jay Bowden was BOG in their huge win over Devonport. Jay Lockhart starred for North Launceston to pick up the 3 votes. And Clarence star Sam Siggins polled 3 against the Tigers. And to the leaderboard, and Zach Burt leads the way on 5 votes, with last year's winner Jay Bowden one of a number of players on 3 votes. In the NPL, Olympia striker Jakob Sklener says his side can go all the way this season following a 5-1 thrashing of Clarence. The lightning quick check pounced early in the Eastern Shore Derby, stamping his authority on the league.
We are definitely competitive in this competition, and we've got a strong, good squad to play.
Olympia will face off against Launceston City on the weekend, ahead of the side's big derby against the Hobart Zebras. Tasmanian athlete Josh Harris is on the verge of being selected to represent Australia at this year's World Athletics Championships in London. The 26-year-old marathon runner ran a 3.5-minute PB in Japan last month, the 2-hour and 17-minute time, the fastest by an Australian this year. Harris proud of not only the result, but the fact he's achieved his success while remaining in Tasmania.
I've been based in Launceston my whole life. I haven't moved away like a lot of the other top athletes, so it kind of shows you can do it from home, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity.
Harris will now focus on the upcoming Launceston 10 in June as part of his preparations, and will run up to 230 kilometres each week in the build-up to London. The World Championships run from August 4 to 13, with the marathon to be held on August 6.
Good evening. Hobart 17 today. Launceston reached 18, Burnie 19 and Devonport 20. The high was 22 at Orford. Temperatures mostly above average. Some showers though over the Furneaux Islands group, along with a light shower over the west and south. Wynyard 19 degrees, Lowhead, Bushy Park and Scottsdale 18. Flinders Island, Campania and Strawn all 16 degrees today. King Island, Friendly Beaches and Grove 15. Lyawini 5 to 9. And that wasn't the time. A band of middle-level cloud with embedded thunderstorms is over the Tasman Sea and eastern Victoria and New South Wales. A moist southerly airflow has the cloud over southeastern WA, South Australia and our region. Severe tropical cyclone Ernie is mixed up with the monsoon trough over the Indian Ocean south of Christmas Island. There's the close-up. Low-level cloud blanketed the state with a clearing from the north occurring during the morning. Tomorrow, the high to our west extends a ridge over Tasmania and further to the north and west as well. A low over the Tasman Sea with the monsoon trough still very active. Winds southeast to southwesterly at 15 to 25 knots, reaching 30 knots over the north. Lighter winds inland and swells to 3.5 metres. Strong wind warning for waters from the top of Flinders Island through and down to St Helens Point. Into Tuesday we go with a shower or two for Hobart, 16 the high, 16 also for Adventure Bay. Tarraleah, 14 degrees. Launceston, partly cloudy, 19 the top, bit of cloud for Devonport and Bridport, 19 and 20 degrees. Burnie becoming cloudy, 19 the high, an early shower clearing from Strawn, 18 the maximum, 18 for Marrawar. While for St Helens, a shower later in the day, 17 the top, 16 for Swansea, white mark on Flinders, 11 overnight, 20 tomorrow. Wednesday's forecast, fine, apart from patchy morning fog and showers clearing from the north. Showers over the northwest on Thursday, increasing in the west and extending to the south later. And on Friday, showers over the southeast. Fine, mostly sunny weather for the remainder of the state. Sunny in Perth, Alice Springs and Brisbane tomorrow. Partly cloudy weather for Adelaide, a top of 22 degrees. A shower or two for Melbourne and Sydney. Partly cloudy, 13 in Hobart, Launceston 14, Devonport 11 degrees. That's the weather for April 10. Very important day, Joe Palmer's birthday. Can't reveal the number, it's too embarrassing. But Joe, I do have a birthday message for you. Forget about the past, you can't change it. Forget about the future, you can't predict it. Forget about the present, I didn't get you one.
You never do. I'm 46. There you go. Secret's out of the bag. 46 and happy to be so. That's all from the news team for now. Thanks so much for your company. Have a great evening. We'll see you a bit later with updates. Bye-bye.